All right, so last week we worked on chokes from the top. We're going to continue from mount, working arm bars, a couple setups. But first I want to go over a couple ways to get into the mount position from side control. So always maintaining a nice, good control here. You guys will probably notice anytime you get side control, people will always bring this foot up to block. The reason is that keeps people from being able to step over. So in that case, if you feel it here, an option, because I still want to stay nice and tight, is I want to be able to switch my grips and come back and turn my hips. Okay, I'm still nice and tight. Chest and ribs is still across here. But the option being, I want to feed inside to collapse the leg over. What that does is now that gives me an option to step and get on top. Okay. So I switch and making sure his arm's behind my hip. And I want to feed, or you can control the pants and push. But I prefer feeding in here. If you do control the pants, I have to now step over my arm here. Okay. So this allows me to kind of pin the legs to the mat and turns his hip. Okay. So as you step over, you can move that arm and drive your knees to the mat. Stay low in the hips. Okay. If I step over and I'm light, I give him that opportunity to move right away. So there should be a nice stomp and then drive the heel in as you drop your hips. So I'm switching, staying nice and tight, feed through and cup. Okay, so as I drive that hand to the mat, I want to step, slide the heel in, and drop my hips. So any questions? Okay, so if you noticed, as soon as I got on top, I hooked. The reason I do that is even if my hips are low, he can still bridge and move. Okay? This kind of keeps him in place. So depending on what side he bridges to, I can extend that leg out to help. If he bridges that way, I'll extend here. Just helps you maintain till you can get a nice high mount. So any questions? Hip pressure, nice and low. Remember, as soon as you step over, drive that heel in. Okay, and keep this arm elevated so he can't turn. Pinch and grapevine the legs. I got it? Sure. Back to our mount position. All right, so last week was our choke from here. So we're going to utilize the same grip. The reason I like to use this to set up the arm bar is because it's harder to separate here, plus I'm committing both of my hands. So if he decides to bridge or move, it's forcing me to open up. Okay. You do have the option to kind of scoop in, but if they're really tight here, it's hard to separate the elbows. I know if I'm able to establish a grip, they're always going to work to try and control the wrist, which now helps separate the elbow. So the same setup, I get that control, and I'm going to use my hip to drive up and separate the arm here. Okay, now I'm still keeping my collar grip. I want to make sure that arm's across, and I'm bringing this knee up tight. Even if I keep pressure here and this is loose, he has that free hand to scoop under or push and feed that leg into the half guard. Okay. So that transition is once I get that grip, I want to post on this foot here, and then I slide up and the knee follows. That also helps me transition into the S mount. Okay. So once I'm here, I want to scoop and pull and then switch here. Okay, still keeping my grip on the collar. Now I want to switch to the wrist, and the hand that's in the collar is now going to be my base, or turn this way. Control the leg here and sit. Okay, so we start with our collar grip, lower our base, and I'm driving off this foot as I slide up. Pull the elbow up and transition into the S mount. Okay, so now I want to control that wrist, step the leg over, and sit. So another option some guys like, same control here, this, and then once they establish that wrist, stepping over and here. Make sure that you're using this hand to base, or if he sits up, you're gonna lose it. Separate. Here, nice tight S mount, control the wrist, and sit back. All right, so kind of back to the collar grip we went over last week. If you go too deep, you can see where it extends your elbow, but then it allows them to bring the hand on the inside and then defend the choke. So now there's nothing for me to really go after. This puts it in place to where he wants it to be able to bridge and escape from this position. So that also forces that elbow to disconnect from the ribs, which then allows me to come up tight. The reason I like to hold onto this arm, as you can see, if he controls that bicep, that's where they defend the armbar a lot. Okay. So pulling up that bicep doesn't really give him anything to hold on to, but then it also exposes that wrist right away. Okay. So first one we sat back, this is your base. Your head's gonna go towards the feet, and you're just gonna bring the shin across and pinch. And then just drive your hips in as you lift the wrist. Okay. Like that. Same setup. So remember, when you slide up, don't go here because you tend to sit on your heel. Now you create space. So that's why I'm driving with the ball of foot on the other leg as I come up. So now I pinch and then control here. It also puts that wrist right where I want it. Okay. And drive your weight towards their hips. Post, shin across, pinch, and drive the hips in. So watch here. Once I post that foot, I drive my hips in and pinch here. So now I'm elevating. Pull, and then when you switch, drive that knee behind the head and go right to the wrist. Any questions?